All right, welcome back everyone to J-Face Games. It's been a little while, but I've been super busy with other stuff, but I'm back. What we're going to talk about today is I want to talk about two games, and I want to synthesize sort of what the core mechanic is behind them that I really dig. All right, the first is a game called Tash-Kalar. So for those of you who don't know what we're doing here, we're looking at board games, we're looking at other games, even maybe some video games today. And what we're trying to do is figure out what about those mechanics we really like and what we might be able to take and borrow for an RPG. How can we lift some of those ideas and turn them into an RPG? So, Tash-Kalar. This is a fantastic game. I own it. I think it's by Vlada. Good old Vlada. He's done a bunch of great games. And it might be this, Tash-Kalar. What I love about this game, well, it's a card game that has little tile laying, little disc tile laying. And you'll see here, it's a beautiful game. You'll see here that you have this table or this playing area, and then everyone has these little tokens, these little circle tokens that they'll be playing down on the board, right? And it looks like, oh, this must be sort of like area control management, etc. Kind of. So what happens is on your turn, you're going to place down a coin, and then other people are going to place down coins. And what you're trying to do is you're supposed to try and capture certain points on this map. But where the real cool aspect comes in is that each one of these different colors is a completely different house, right? Different faction altogether. And every faction has their own cards. And these cards, let me see if I can get a good picture of some of these cards. This one kind of shows it. These cards, each card has a little location here that shows tile placement orientations, right? And so what happens is that if you ever have these type of tiles in this placement, and it can be mirrored, then there's an effect that can happen. You can play that card and an effect's gonna happen, and something happens to an enemy tile, possibly in this target box, right? So it's crazy, the game's crazy. So you're trying to figure out where does someone try to want to go? How can I disrupt their possible combo or orientation? How can I maximize my orientation to get the biggest bang for my buck? So it's a really fun puzzle game. It can get really tight. The factions are very different and unique, and so it's a blast, right? Very, very heady, very thinker game, but it's really fun. So I really like this idea, right? I really like this idea. That could be easily translated to positions on a map where, well, we'll get to it. One second, let me get to it, all right? The other game is Lord of the Rings, the online game, right? And this introduced the same kind of thing where I played a ton of MMOs and I really enjoyed them. And I really enjoyed the team-oriented concept, but LOTR took that team-oriented concept and maxed it, right? In the essence, because they created this combo system where what would be happening is you'd be fighting a monster like normal. You're the tank, you're the healer, you're the support, you're the rogue, doing DPS, etc., etc. But then all of a sudden, someone might be able to start a combo, and you would see this thing like pop up on top, and it would be different symbols, right? Because different symbols could cause different combos. And it would show you different symbols. And different people in the party then had to do, someone does red, someone does green, someone does yellow, someone does blue. And say two people went to do green, well, that would screw up the combo and it would just stop. But if everyone got their combo off, there'd be a massive effect, right? So that was very hectic and fun in LTR, but it made the combat system so much more rich. It made it feel like you were working together, as opposed to just I'm over here, watching health bars and keeping health up, right? So that brings us to an RPG, right? So we'll say tile placement or orientation of pieces to get an effect. And I'm just going to put LOTR in here with it, just because LOTR online uses a group combo system for boosts, right? So what I like and dislike about this. What I would dislike about this is if the combos forced players to do things that then took away their turn, right? It took away their thought. It was, in essence, like quarterbacking in board games. So quarterbacking in board games is when you play a co-op game and one person's just telling everyone else what to do. I guess that can happen in RPGs as well, but the one thing I don't want is that, okay, it's my turn, so I'm always going to do this because we're trying to go for a combo. So that made me feel like not all combos need to be available all the time, right? And how can we tie this into RPG? So the idea, I thought, was that you have a deck of combos or a deck of cards, or you as a DM create new combos based on the monster, so they're thematically tied, right? And you create a couple of little cards just for that monster. So first what has to happen is someone has to do some sort of check, right? Some sort of like, so let's do the mechanic. Someone has to do some sort of check. Knowledge check, arcane check, arcana, religion. This is if D&D. This is D&D terms, but it could be any system where you have checks, nature, etc. Once you do the check, now you flip a random combo, and it could be monster specific. Not sure, right? So you flip a combo. Now, this combo needs to have challenges to it, but it needs to be generic enough. Like it can't say fighter attacks. You know, it might say something like 3 or 4 items. It's got to be party size worth of stuff. And it might have something like someone needs to grapple or grapple it or attack it. But I like grapple because now grapple sometimes in board games is kind of useless. It's kind of a little thematic, but it's useless otherwise. Like you just hold someone and you're wasting an action for it. So that's how I felt sometimes. Or you create this player that's so grappled out that that's all you do, and that kind of sucks. So grapple, attack, something, right? You do something. Then what ends up happening is someone else now maybe does like a check, right? Performance or feint or something. And then someone does like, I don't know, a shove or a massive hit or a fire-based attack, right? Maybe they have to have a torch or something. Whatever, so you come up with a combo that now the players have to think. What I like about this is the players now have to think like, you have an initiative order, right? If the rogue is first, does the rogue now have to delay their attack because all of a sudden the cleric yells out, you know, the cleric does his knowledge check and he's like, we need to grab it. And then all of a sudden the rogue's next and he's like, if I'm gonna grab this thing. So now they delay their turn so the fighter goes next so he can get in there and grab it. So I like that because it forces some agency, and there's a reason to do it, because if you succeed, like success equals massive damage, right? So it would have to be a damage enough that 3 people using their turns to do this would be worth it, right? More so than if they did it on their own. And there would have to be something where you'd have to come up with a concept for let's see, what happens if the check fails halfway through, right? Because now you're gonna have to come up with some sort of consolation prize or some sort of like, this can hold over it. If you have 2 people that have succeeded, maybe the card stays out. If no one succeeds, the card goes away and you've lost that opportunity. Maybe you have to do a new check to see what other card comes out. So maybe this guy, if he fails, that card goes away, just flat out. So now someone aiding him or assisting him means it's that much more important. But if he succeeds and the next person fails, it lasts until the next round because at least one person succeeded at it. But now you have that decision of, am I gonna just sit here and keep grappling this thing, or are we gonna attack it, or just straight up attack it? So I like this idea. I like giving them choices and making it somewhat thematic. So that's Tash-Kalar, and that's what I got from Tash-Kalar and what I got from LOTR line. You'll see that what I did was I extrapolated this out to a, this could be Theater of the Mind with just a card drop, or you could really go Tash-Kalar and say that it's position based. You flop out a card and we need to be in certain orientations. And what's cool about that is for games like D&D 5e, that might eliminate the tango line of everyone just flanking each other and then it's just a line of people. If you institute something like these cards that come out randomly for the players, now you see what's happening. And you could also do it for the DM. The DM could have a card that their enemies are trying to get into, and it's facing them, and now someone on the other side has to do like a warfare like check, you know? So they do like a military warfare check. They get to look at the card, they can't show everyone else, and then they gotta try and, oh, get over there, you know, take that guy out, it's important, you know, that kind of thing. So you could have some really, you could change up how tactical combat on a minis grid kind of looks when you add these cards in as well. All right, that's it for today.